Hey, Coach. Thanks for doing this, by the way. I was wondering, after watching the tape, just your overall thoughts on the way both your quarterbacks, well, actually all three of your quarterbacks, the way they handled themselves last night.
I thought they all had poise and handled themselves very well from that standpoint. I think Kyle let one get away on the long yardage situation, but other than that, I thought they played well.
What would you like to see out of those guys going into this next preseason game? How can they kind of build on those performances?
Just continue to run the offense, not try to go outside the framework of what we're trying to do, and they haven't, and get better and understand what they have to take down the field and what they don't. So that's been good so far.
Thank you.
As a reminder to media, please raise your hand when you have a question. We'll go to Scott Reynolds next.
Hey, Coach, when you went back and looked at the film of the offensive line, especially on the right side with the young guys, Cody Mauch and Luke Edeke, can you discuss your thoughts on how those two guys performed?
Well, they had a lot of good plays, but I thought they got high at times and they got pushed back a little bit when they did get high. So it's a couple of technique things we need to work on. That's why they played a lot, and they'll play a lot next week to get better at that.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll go to Greg Allman.
Hey, Coach, sorry if I'm asking something that was already asked already, but you guys have been fairly quiet in training camp in terms of transactions and adding veterans for depth. Do you have any pause? Do you look at any positions where you might need to bring in more experienced depth after watching last night, or do you still feel good about what you have in the young depth you work with already?
Not yet. We got to give them time to play. I mean, one game isn't going to settle it. We'll give them another game and see if they grow any from this week. And if we need to look at depth, we probably won't start looking until after this week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If any media have a question, please raise your hand. We'll go to John Romano.
Hey, Todd. I know it's preseason. I know it's small sample size, but I'm just curious about your first impressions of what Canales is trying to do on offense.
I like it. I thought he did a good job play calling. I thought we had some things we wanted to work on that we got accomplished. You know, it's different in preseason calling the game than things you're trying to work on once the season starts, when you really have to call the game. But I thought he did a good job with each quarterback playing to their strengths, and I thought that was good.
We'll go to Rick Stroud.
Coach, last year there was some issues on short yardage. I think you had one last night or two. Like, what's the key to getting those?
We had two last night. The key to getting those is really some kind of variety. You know, you try to smash mouth in preseason, but during the season, you got to have some type of variety. We know everybody's going to crash the middle and smoke the middle. So we got to have certain plays that's etched in stone. That's our bread and butter that we can be good at and know we can gain 1 yard. So we'll be working on that this week.
Thanks.
We'll go to Scott Reynolds.
Hey, Coach, last night you were talking about tackling and how it needed to improve, and you can work on it without having live tackling periods and maybe taking guys to the ground for, a few plays. How can you practice wrapping up effectively when, so much of it is just kind of, two-hand touch, if you will, in practice?
It's more or less of coming to balance as far as the tackle itself. We're out of control when we get there. We got to come to balance and have our knees under us and our legs under us so we can make the tackle. We're coming in there flying, head full of steam, and we're flailing around. We got to come to balance a lot better. We can practice that.
Thanks, Coach.
JC Allen.
Hey, Coach, there's several depth battles going on in camp. Wide receiver, outside linebackers, one you mentioned. Did anyone step up and kind of separate themselves from the pack last night?
I don't think anyone separated themselves. There are those that had better outings statistically than others, but I don't think the separation has showed yet looking at the tape. They all still have things to work on. Every battle will continue this week, and we'll go from there.
And what did you see out of Yaya and Savasier last night?
You can see Yaya's strong. Obviously, he got his feet under him after a while, but he's got some technical things to work on that we'll get better at. Once he settled down after the first series, I thought he did well. Savasier is still very smart. He has 2 or 3 things he has to work on. You know, playing teams and playing all the defense is tough going in, but I thought he did some good things. I thought he had some mistakes that we can correct.
Thanks, Coach.
Greg Allman.
Todd, I know, I think you'd mentioned this in the spring, and I realized last night we hadn't really asked you about it. Your defensive staff is largely the same for last year. Obviously, George is here now, but in terms of your game day operations, everything on the defensive side, is that largely the same as what it was last year? No big changes there?
I'm sorry, say that again. You were going out a little bit.
Sorry, I was just asking if your defensive, all the play calling, all the game day responsibility, if that's all the same since your personnel is largely the same on the defensive coaching side.
I mean, it changed a little bit when George got here. We did a little tinkering last night. It changed around a little bit. Coach Foote called the game actually last night, so we're working on some things there. Coach Rogers will call it this week, so we're doing some different things there. But technically, it's the same.
And do you plan on calling the games in the regular season again? Is that something you've decided, or could that change as well?
It could change, but right now I plan on calling it.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
We'll go to Rick Stroud.
Hey, Coach, you guys will be going to New York. I'm just curious what you like about these joint practices and just how valuable this will be from an evaluation standpoint for your quarterbacks, for all your players, really.
It's good for the veteran guys to go up there because in preseason you hardly show anything, so it's pretty vanilla, and you can get all your stuff in during the week in practice. So it's really played like a game, and that's why you allow the rest of those guys come game time. You know, the practices aren't on film, so you can really run your defense and your offense, and they can run their defense and their offense, and you can get a look at live stuff full speed. And come preseason game, everything's very vanilla. So that's when the younger guys usually get their experience to fly around and play. So the practices for us are like games for the veterans. And then the game itself is really for experience for the rookies.
Do you like their ability to bond on the road? I mean, it's a road trip, but you're in a hotel for a number of days.
I think anytime you get a chance to do that, it's great. Especially the way camps have changed over the years. So when you have bonding time, it always helps in camp.
Thanks.
We have time for a few more. We'll go to Scott Reynolds.
So, Coach, based on what you just said, are we going to expect a lot of the starters to sit down for the Jets game, similar to what happened last night?
If they can get a lot of reps in, yeah. Those who don't get a lot of reps in will play in the game. If we can get the reps that we need to get in for those 2 practices, which they will take the bulk of, we'll evaluate that probably that Thursday or Friday.
And then can you comment on the play of your nickels last night and if either Izzy or Josh Hayes, made any plays, made some progress, etc.?
Well, Izzy was solid. He had one technical error, but I thought he was solid. He didn't get a lot of action, but he did all the right things. We know what he brings to the table. I think he's the front runner right now. I think Hayes has excellent feet. As we continue to watch him, he's getting better and better, so we'll continue to work with him.
Thanks, Coach.
Last question will come from JC Allen.
Coach, just kind of staying on that vein of the second and third preseason game, will you expect to know who your quarterback is going into that week 3 preseason game, and will starters get some work with them in a game type action there?
We'll evaluate that after the Jets game and see where we are. I won't make that decision right now. That'll be determined after the game going forward. Both of them will, as far as who will play in the 3rd preseason game and who will start that one.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that's all we have. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.